My name is Brendan Flynn. My family is Mike and Jeannie Flynn. They moved to San Juans in the early 70s. I was born in 1979, and my dad had taken a reef netting here, sometime in the mid-70s, not long after they moved here. And pretty much as soon as they could, they started taking me out onto the reef net gear when I was a baby. And as soon as I could stand up and pick up a fish, I was. So, yeah, I've been doing it most of my life. When I was a child, we would fish many to most days in August, a lot of September, and could fish, if we chose to keep our gear in, we could fish into October, even in November, for the later chums, August and September being sockeye and pink salmon. Now we're able to fish every other year for pinks. On the sockeye years, we're able to fish every fourth year now. Alaska is Bristol Bay, western Bristol Bay. I fish out of Dillingham, Alaska in the Nishigak district. In the Nishigak, you have the Nishigak Wood and Agushik systems. This year, I believe we had I think it was the third largest run recorded. We had just a couple years ago the largest run recorded there, and we're talking over the last 100 and some years. The productivity there is just absolutely phenomenal, and down here it just seems to diminish, year after year. I really notice flying back and forth from here to there is, every year when I come home, I just, you look down out of the plane and you just see the level of development here. And up there, all you see is healthy, natural working systems. People always ask, why are there so many fish up there and not here? And there's quite a lot of science pointing to changing ocean conditions. The hot water event, the blob, 2015-16, had a huge detrimental impact on the fish here. We had multiple springs where the fish went out into a less productive ocean because of the warmer temperatures. And as it warmed here, that improved conditions farther north, and so that, the fish, one of the reasons they think the fish in Bristol Bay are doing well is they're kind of in this sweet spot in the ocean right now. The kind of fishing we do here is called reef netting. What it is it's the type of fishing was invented by the Native American communities here prior to settlement, and was adapted, appropriated from them early in the century by white settlers. What it is a set of lead lines that essentially funnel the fish. You have lines going down from a cork line. The leads are only 200 feet long. They're about 250 feet wide at the mouth, and taper to about, I think the net's only 50 feet across, but I think we spread to about 70 feet or something, 70 or 80 feet when the net's down. And then there are floor lines going across, similarly reeded, and so it makes a false reef. This is just an anchored fixed gear, and you just sit there on your two boats at the back of the hat with the net stretched between them. Nets at the surface of the back of the boats and down on winch lines in the front, and it billows back in the tide, and you wait for the fish to swim down that lead over the break point of the net and watch from towers, and now actually as well use sonar to see the fish going into the net and then pull it up around them, hopefully before they escape. Now it's something we do because we love it, and it's a tradition for us now. But a lot of years it costs more to do it. You don't see the bait balls of herring and needlefish that you used to see just kind of on every flood and change of tide. There'd be like a pulse of bait that would come up San Juan Channel where we fish, and balls of birds on top of that bait. There's just not the same level of the number of juvenile salmon that you see is diminished, because we see a lot of juvenile salmon standing in the stands on the reef nets. You see kind of everything that goes by, the bait, the juvenile Chinook, a lot of juvenile Chinook. Yeah, there used to be puffins here. There just aren't anymore. Yeah, there's just it's a lot less to everything. But I think the big issue right now is trying to figure out what's going to make the most sense for people and the environment, because we have an ocean that can support X amount of fish, but we're lacking the habitat for them in the river systems in a lot of places here in Puget Sound in particular. Do we pump out a bunch of hatchery fish to the detriment of the wild stocks and have fish for the people and the whales and the seals and everything else? Or do we cut the hatchery fish and try to rebuild these systems? Unfortunately, I think it's going to have to be some sort of balance, and I just don't know how you do that. Salmon is the kind of the base of the ecosystem here. It's the biological pump that grew the huge trees in the Pacific Northwest, and brought for eons all that nutrition back from the ocean. That's very meaningful to me on that level. But personally, salmon, I fished for salmon my whole life, and most everything I have I owe to salmon. It's one of my main foods. I had salmon for breakfast. Yeah, I don't really know what I'd do without salmon, frankly.